The movie The Matrix, everyone thinks science fiction. I go, no, that's a documentary. Everybody got programmed. That's a fact. That's a biological reality. Right. But what was interesting, they always say, well, there's a red pill, and if you take the red pill, you get out of the program. And I go, guess what? Almost everybody in our audience has taken that red pill at one time, changed their life. It turns out science has recognized that when you fall in love, you stop playing the programs and you start creating from your conscious mind. Wishes and desires are conscious mind. And so once you let go of the program and you start creating wishes and desires, it's called the honeymoon. Created this heaven on earth experience. And I go, you could have that every day for every day of your whole life.
Yes.
Because we created that. And if you understand you created, then you can say, well, why didn't I create it tomorrow? And I go, you can create it every day. That's the beautiful part.
Need motivation?
Watch a Top 10 with Believe Nation.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because as a young entrepreneur, I struggled to keep my business going. I had no friends, I had no mentors, I had no role models. And the thing that saved me was learning from the success stories of famous entrepreneurs. And in their stories, I got motivation, and I also got strategies for what I could do to grow my business and not stay stuck. And I still need their stories for motivation today. So today, let's learn from one of the best, Bruce Lipton, and my take on his top 10 rules of success. Enjoy. Rule number 2 is reprogram your mind.
95% of our behavior is coming from below consciousness. And we're the ones that can't see it when we play it, but everybody else, of course, is seeing exactly what we're doing. So the whole idea is, are you living the life you want, or are you living the life you've been programmed? And the answer, unfortunately, is most of us are living the life we've been programmed, and the programming comes from other people, so it's not our lives. The reason, let's give a reason why programming occurs, okay? The brain is a computer. Most powerful computer that humans have ever experienced. But it has parallels to computers. And number one is this. In the old days, when you would buy a computer before they put the programs in, you could bring it home, brand new computer, plug it in, push start, boots up, screen's on, and I say, do something. And people, well, no, I can't do anything. So you got a brand new computer. No. First, you have to put programs into a computer before you can use that computer. The brain of a human is the same thing. The screen lights up in the last trimester of pregnancy. It's ready, but there are no programs. So the first 7 years of a child's life is the brain is not operating at the higher level of consciousness, higher level, higher vibration. That's what we talk about. We put wires on a person's head, electroencephalograph, read brain function. A child up through 7 is not operating at consciousness except for a little bit. It's primarily operating at a lower vibration called theta. And I say, well, what is theta? I say, it's expressed as imagination. So that's how children can have a tea party and they pour nothing into the cup and then they drink the nothing and then they explain how that was the best tea they ever had. Or a child rides a broom saying it's a horse. In the child's mind, that is not a broom, it's a horse. But it's mixing imagination and reality. But theta is hypnosis. And the significance of that is children have to learn how to become a member of a family, the rules. Member of a community, the rules. I go, how can an infant, a young kid, learn these rules? They can't go to school, they can't read the book and all that. And I say, you don't have to. Nature provided theta, hypnosis, so that they can observe the parents, the family, and the community. Just observe their behavior and download those as programs. Age 7, then that's when they start to become more conscious and engaging themselves. First 7 years is programming, but after age 7, 95% of your life is coming from that program. So if you can program the child for the first 7 years, then the rest of the life of that child is actually an expression of that program.
Rule number 3 is be yourself.
I was given an opportunity to go to San Francisco and have a big presentation at a big conference on energy and crystals and stuff like that. And I thought, well, there's going to be an audience there. Energy and crystals, like, okay, everything I'm talking about in biology. Man, I was so excited. And I thought, this is my great opportunity. And it was like 3 months before, and I thought, okay, I'm going to work on this. And then I just let it go. I let it go, and now it's getting to a month before. And I said, I got to work on what's my seminar going to be? What's my seminar? And all I had in my head was, okay, this was a new agey kind of thing. So I thought, well, back then, what the heck was new agey? I said, oh, that's where they wear all white shirts and white pants and a white vest, white clothes, you know, and that they're so delicate and they speak in a very quiet tone and they're so new agey. And that really wasn't me. I was like the bull in the china shop, you know, it's like, hey, let me, and it goes, no, I got to calm down. I got to be cool. I'm going to present this in a new age fashion. So I tried to formulate a new age me to present this. Well, now it's about a week before this conference, and it's like my new age me has not come up with any idea of how to present this. And then it started to get closer, and it was just a few days away. I'm going to go to San Francisco. I was like, oh my God, I don't have a talk. And I just said, forget it. Let me just be me. I just want to talk the way I want to talk. I'm not going to conform to be some new age guru. That's not me. I'm a science guy, and I'm going to say what I want to say. And finally, in that moment, it was just a couple of days before, and all of a sudden I said, that's it. No more new age. Let's write this. And the moment I let go of some persona I was supposed to be and just said, nah, I'm just going to be me. All of a sudden, the words started coming out. I can remember I grabbed a yellow pad and I had a pen, and the words started coming so fast. As soon as I said, stop being New Age guy, start being Bruce, the words started coming page after page. I was right. I had like 4 or 5 pages of notes. Like after all those months, it was sort of like, okay, it was a little constipated in my consciousness, you know, but it all of a sudden freed up. And it's why I am not them. I'm me. And try to act like somebody else took away everything I was. And that was at the point that said, oh my God, I'm not going to alter who I am. I love this research. I'm not going to tailor it for that audience. And it was so wonderful because there were 3 months where it was just logging back in my head. Yeah, I got to do this. I'm going to do this. Like, didn't want to do it. Why? Because at some level, the first thing was, I'm going to be somebody else. I'm going to be Mr. New Age guy. The moment I let go of being somebody else and became me, then all the words came down.
Rule number 4 is always seek knowledge.
A lack of knowledge is a lack of power. Mm-hmm. And I say, you're suffering out here because you feel you have no power. And if you really understand the biology that we're talking about and the spirituality that you're talking about, and you start to recognize it, you recognize, oh my God, you are so powerful, and yet you have a belief of victim. And since belief controls it, no matter how powerful you are, if your belief is you're a victim, then you are a victim. And we have been victimized by beliefs that are incorrect. And if we adjust the science, it automatically then comes right together with the whole spiritual message that Agape and my brother Reverend here have been providing for years. But there's a scientific context to it, because a lot of people go, well, this is scientific. I go, yes, it is.
I mean, what are those flawed beliefs that we've been living under all these years?
Well, there are 4 of them, and 2 of them are actually part of Darwinian theory, which I'll mention. But the first one that's really important is people have been programmed to believe that the genes they inherited at conception are programming the rest of their life. The genes, we didn't select them as far as we know. If you don't like the characteristics, you can't change these genes. And then we add on top of that, we say, and the genes turn on and off by themselves. And all of a sudden you start to realize, then I'm not running my life. The genes are running my life. Oh my God, there's cancer in the family and their genes are going, I'm going to get a cancer gene. And I said, what's the belief? You already got the belief. I'm going to get cancer. I go, this is trouble right there. Right. Just a little sidebar, because I love this sidebar. There's not one gene that causes cancer. Cancer is not caused by a gene. Cancer is caused by disharmony in your life. Unresolved anger is the biggest one. Feeling lost, left out, not part of something is another one that separates you. And I want people to understand that, because so many people say, oh, I've got this cancer and the gene does, and I'm just a victim back here, and the genes took this and genes made this. And I go, stop. You are co-creating with those genes. The gene does not turn on and off, and the gene does not control things. The gene responds to the environment. And if your perception of the environment is not in harmony and support of your life, that disharmony is what can activate a gene. A gene is a blueprint, just like in an architect's office. And I say, you go into an architect office and she's working on a blueprint. You ask her and you say, hey, is your blueprint on or off? And she'd look at you like, what, are you crazy? It's a blueprint. There's no on and off. I go, yes. DNA is a blueprint to make the proteins of the body. It cannot turn itself on and off. You need an architect. Consciousness, mind is architect.
Right.
That turns the genes on and can modify the readout of the genes.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is practice stress management.
Consciousness is controlling your genetic activity. When people follow the fate of a child adopted into a family where there's cancer, they find that the adopted child will get the same family cancer at the same probability as any of the natural siblings. So an adopted child gets that cancer. But here's the point. The adopted child came from totally different genetics. So it was not the genetics that pushed that cancer. It was being adopted into a family where the programming was not giving them wholeness, health, happiness. It's just stressful, very stressful programming. And as you said, stress. American Psychological Association recognizes 90% of doctor visits are stress-related visits. And we don't focus on the stress. That's like, a side thing. I say, no, it's not a side thing. It's the number one thing that is coming from the top down. And the genes are blueprints to make the proteins of the body, 100,000 different proteins, like building blocks, okay? Proteins are complex molecules, and they wear out. Proteins wear out all the time. So you have to replace them. I said, well, how do you replace this complex molecule? And the answer is DNA is a blueprint to make a protein. I go, so what? And I go, well, you go into an architect's office and she's working on a blueprint. And I say, well, ask her, is your blueprint on or off? And she would look at it and go, what are you talking about? It's a blueprint. It's no on and off. I go, precisely. Genes cannot turn themselves on and off. They don't self-actualize. They're controlled by environmental signals. And all of a sudden, oh my God, well, if the environment is controlling this, then your programming in the environment, your lifestyle in the environment, and all these other things now become the primary controlling factor of your genes, not the genes. And we have to let go, because when I was programming the doctors that, genes turn on and off and all that stuff, I was programming that people are victims. Because, as I said, as far as you know, you didn't pick the genes, you can't change them. They operate by themselves. And so we were programming victim. And then it turns out the new science of epigenetics is not victim. You're the one that's actually controlling it with your behavior.
Rule number 6 is take control.
If my thoughts are distorted because of animal soul, when I broadcast these thoughts, I'm not activating what I want. I'm activating what the program wants. And I started to realize that because the magnetic field, as you said, is shaping our experiences in this world at this point. And that's what you can read with magnetoencephalograph. You're reading these fields, which are your thoughts. And then I started to realize when the field is mainly run by the animal soul, I'm not controlling that. That was the automatic program. That's a program. That's not me. That's program. And I realized I could observe me doing the program, but there's a point, like you recognize, there's a point to say, wait a minute, I'm the controller. I don't want that program. I want to use my human soul to run the show. And as you said, same thing. Once you start coming from the human soul, you override the animal soul. And that's when you become the creator. And because of our creation, not only is information coming in, but as the magnetoencephalograph shows, the information going out, and I say, it affects the world we're living in. Okay, that's the experience you have now. But it also goes back to the original spirit. And this is the karma part where my life experience has distorted my spiritual broadcast. And I say, well, how do I get back? And I say, it's very simple. You just have to know who you are. And this is what you said, and it's true. Most people have no idea who they are. They think they're this physical body. And I said, that's what I used to think when I was conventional science. But once I understood the physics and the role of energy and consciousness and spirit, the game changed for me. I said, wait a minute, I don't want to be animal soul. I want to be Bruce's soul. I want Bruce's to create this, not the program from mother and father and culture. I don't want that one. I want one. And like you, I started to recognize, well, wait, I can change. I want to take the control now. I want to put my hands back on the steering wheel. I want to drive this. I don't want the program to drive this. You know, the cell phone that you have in your hand, yeah, you can drive it by talking into it, but it also can work by itself because it's got program. And I think that you and I have this information that we've been trying to present to the world to say, take back the control because you're more than this body.
Rule number 7 is change your perception.
Well, I could live in a perfectly healthy, happy environment that will support me. But if I perceive it's a negative environment, then my cells inside my body do not know that it is a healthy environment. They only see the perception that I send to them. And this is why perception becomes so important, is because the cells are not directly touching the environment and depend on the nervous system's interpretation to adjust their biology. So if I change my perception, my mind, change my belief about life, I change the signals that are going in and adjusting the function of the cell. The point is very, very significant, and that is this. I'm not a victim of my genes because I, by my ability to change my environment and by my ability to change my perception of the environment, have the ability to control my genetic activity. I'm not a victim of my heredity. I'm a master of my genetic activity.
Rule number 8 is get into theta.
Well, how do you change a program? That was the issue. Not how you change the conscious mind, how do you change the subconscious mind? Because it doesn't learn. Conscious mind learns by just whatever you read the book, I learned it, okay? Subconscious mind doesn't learn that way. I say, how does it learn? I say, well, in the first 7 years, that's when I said the programming went in. The brain wasn't functioning at the higher level of consciousness. It was actually a little lower. That was called theta, the vibration, the imagination and all that. That's hypnosis. Okay, so the first way we learned programs was hypnosis because the function of the brain was at a low lower vibration. Some people might remember the old days when hypnotherapy they'd have a watch and the hypnotherapist said swing the watch back and forth and they would say you're getting tired, and what was the point? When you get tired, you lower the vibration of the brain. And the moment you fall asleep, actually, consciously, the next level of activity of the brain is theta before it goes down to the lowest vibration, delta, sleep. So every night when you go to bed, there's a period just after you close your eyes and you're essentially disconnected for a moment, your brain is operating in theta. Well, theta is hypnosis, okay? So I said, well, that's how your brain was in theta during that childhood period as predominantly. Now you're an adult. I say, yeah, but you have theta every night when you go to bed. So I said, what can you do? And this is the old story. You've heard people do it. You put a pair of earphones on at night. You play a program that you want to be true in your life. And while you're awake, you might hear the program, but it's the moment you fall asleep, the conscious mind shut off, but the subconscious mind is now in record theta. So whatever is coming through the earphones at that moment after you fall asleep, you don't hear it, but the subconscious mind is hearing it and downloading it in a state of theta. So the first way of changing a belief system is to get into theta. And this is called self-hypnosis. put the earphones on, play the programs for health, happiness, love, joy, whatever, and just go to sleep, which is really cool because you don't have there's no studying here. You just play the program.
Yeah. Rule number 9 is study the science of spirituality.
I think this is one of the best things that we both can do right now is to help people recognize how truly powerful they are, even though they've been programmed to think, I'm a victim. I say, no, you're not. And there's a science behind it. And that's why I love talking with you, because there's the spiritual part, which I never was spiritual. For 40 years, I was a science guy, genes, chromosomes, blah, blah, blah. And then in the study of the cells taught me that we're not even in here. We're a broadcast playing through here. And when you understand why, which blew my mind, because, hey, I wasn't spiritual. And all of a sudden I said, oh my goodness, the cells have little antennas on them. And each of us has a different set of these antennas, which are receiving a broadcast.
Yes.
In physics, you might say the word field, which is, let me define it, invisible moving forces that influence the physical world. And I go, same definition for spirit, invisible moving forces influence the physical world. I said, oh my God, quantum physics has revealed to us that we're this energy spirit, and we come in and play through the body, and each of our bodies have a different sets of antennas, so no two people get the same station. And all of a sudden I realized, oh my God, after 40 some years of not even believing in it, in 2 minutes, I turn around and go, of course, everything is spiritual now. But the meaning of it for me, Michael, was so great because you know what happened?
Yeah, you had a kind of an instantaneous epiphany. It just changed your life.
The lightning hit me.
Yeah.
And what was interesting, within seconds, I lost fear. Because
I understand that.
Because the greatest fear people have is death.
Yes.
What if you don't die? Because the field is always here, whether the body, which I call the television set, you're watching the Bruce show on the television set here, but the Bruce show is a broadcast being picked up and played through the show. And I realized you can't die. You're not even in here.
Right.
We're the energy around here. But then, being a inquisitive scientist, I remember, I'll never forget it. I sat there just like, oh my God, there's a spirit and there's a body and a spirit. And my science mind said, why not just be a spirit? Why have a body? And then I found out I had what I refer to as Jewish comedian cells. Because I asked a question, why have both a body and a spirit? And the cells answered with a question that came right up in my head. And the answer is like, it's so profound and so funny. I said, why have a spirit and a body? And the cell said, Bruce, if you're just a spirit, what does chocolate taste like? Now you have to take that one in for a little bit and realize something, is that this body translates energy environments into pictures and sounds and smells and feelings and all these things. And I go, oh my God, we came here to experience life.
And rule number 10, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is participate in conscious revolution.
Well, the other day I was going through my toy box, and guess what I found? Something I hadn't seen for a long, long time, my wonderful, wonderful Etch A Sketch. Now, many of you may have had this when you were young as well, but I really loved it. You know why? It gave you an opportunity to make a drawing on this screen by turning these dials down here. And then after you complete the drawing, you can then shake it up, and the drawing will disappear, and you can make another drawing. So it was like a reusable pen and paper. Just shake it and make a new one. So here, let's take a look at how you do it. And I'll try it. It's been a long time since I've done it, but let me work at it. Here's how it works. So, well, you can see I'm a little out of practice on it, but here's the beautiful part. Here's a drawing that I just made, and I created this image and then manifested it on the screen of the Etch A Sketch. So what's really interesting is what I can do is now shake up this screen and erase the image, and then I can create another one. Perhaps this one is going to be a little better than the last one. Let's see what I can do this time. Well, what a great picture, but what we can do is just shake it up. What the hell is going on behind me? What? Oh my God, the world is collapsing. So why is this relevant? because there's a lot we can learn about evolution through an Etch A Sketch. Wow, what we're experiencing right now is a process called evolution. Well, it's not the evolution we learned in school, the Darwin version. That's the kind of evolution that says evolution has gradual changes over billions of years, imperceptible, but over a long time, you see an outcome that's different. In contrast to the old version of evolution, the gradualism version, there's a new understanding of evolution called punctuated equilibrium. This is a theory that was devised by Stephen Jay Gould and Niles Eldredge. And what did they recognize is that when looking for fossils, there were different layers where fossils of animals that no longer exist. And then there's like a space, and then there's another layer with fossils of animals that no longer exist. And then another space. And they said, well, there's something going on. There's a development, a punctuation, another development, and a punctuation. The punctuations are natural events that destroyed the nature and the web of life at that time. And in fact, the last one of these mass extinctions is attributed to a giant comet that hit near the Yucatan Peninsula and upended the web of life. And at that last extinction, 66 million years ago, remember, before the comet hit, the planet was filled with lush tropical forests and dinosaurs. After the comet hit, they don't exist anymore. The strata that we see in the fossils is really the same story as we see in the Etch A Sketch. The strata means that something happened, there was a picture, then the picture changed, and a new picture formed on the next strata. And then that picture changed. The understanding about the nature of the Etch A Sketch and what's actually going on in our world right now are really the same story. We've created an image, it's not sustainable, and the Etch A Sketch is shaking, but the planet is shaking. The planet is telling us that civilization you have created is no longer sustainable, and it's time for us to create a more thrivable situation for us to move into the future. There's an old saying, there's no such thing as a news story. Well, in fact, interesting point, we can go back 1,000 years and start to recognize that the Buddhists were telling us the same story in a different fashion. They were making what are called sand mandalas. And these are very ornate creations from different sands. Instead of paint, different sand, creating a structure and then making this most beautiful structure. And they also recognize, just like the universe is, things don't always stay the same. So after they create this most beautiful expression, then they take all the sand and scoop it all together, make a big pile, and start all over again for another image. Just as in the story with the mandala, and the same story in the Etch A Sketch, and the same story that we're experiencing on this planet right now, there's a very important point that says that we can move into the future, but take with us what we learned from the past to build a better future, to thrive into that future. And this is where we are right now. Shaking it up so that civilization come together in a new version with love, harmony, and peace. While we're in this state of chaos, it's a very important point about you, the observer of what I've just been talking about. And I go, why is this important? Because you represent cultural creatives. You are the people that are looking for answers to how to get into the future from the destruction we're facing right now. And the answers are not in a box. So just by even watching what we're talking about right here is the idea to give you the insight of how powerful you are in creating the new future. Your participation is involved in this evolution. This is not a passive event you sit at home and wait for evolution. This is where we go out and manifest evolution. And just like in the story, the Etch A Sketch, you can put your hands on the dial and start to create a new image as well. And so collectively, when we all work together, the new image is a new civilization, one that can take us from today into a future. This is the moment of manifesting a new civilization, not just for the people, but for Mother Nature herself. And this is our opportunity to participate in conscious evolution. What is the immune system? Well, generally it's something that protects me. From what? From things that get inside your body. And I said, well, why should things want to get inside my body in the first place? Let's just set up a scenario. You're out there in the world, and I drop you off in the wilderness, and I say, okay, survive. And one of the things you have to do is start finding food. And you're going to spend all your time, maybe find nothing, and you're going to be looking for food. And here's an alternative vision. I drop you out in an eat-all-you-can buffet. Well, you don't have to worry about food. It's being served to you all the time. What does this have to do with the immune system? And I go like this. bacteria, parasites that live out in the environment have to struggle for their survival to find food. But underneath your skin, the tissues inside your body are flush with fluid from the blood. And in that fluid are all the nutrients and elements necessary for growth. So if a bacteria could find itself inside to your body, it would be sitting pretty. All it'd have to do is just sit there, and food would be constantly delivered from an individual's circulatory system. So the idea is, well, yeah, then obviously this is a nice environment that invasive organisms would like to find themselves in because it's like free food, no probs. So what does this mean? It says, well, then we have to have a defense system. Because if invasive organisms get in there, not only will they utilize the food we make, but they could create a toxic waste environment that could actually undermine our health. So we can't afford to have invasive organisms come into us and take over. And the immune system's job is an internal protection system, as opposed to, for example, the adrenal system, fight or flight, which protects you from threats on the outside. Immune system protects you from threats on the inside. So I said, well, how does it work? Well, the immune system is an intelligent system. Because what is the function of the immune system? To go out into the world of their body and look for things that are new, that came in, and then not only recognize them, but learn about them so that they could create antibodies, for example, to effectively knock them out. So the immune system's character is learning and memory. I go, wow, what a coincidence. This is the character of the nervous system. Point. The immune system is an extension of the nervous system, learning and memory about the environment in which you live. So I said, well, how does it work? Well, I say that there are organisms that prefer to find the interior of our body as a place to live because it's so much easier for them just to sit there and live off of your energy and your nourishment. So the old story is, the immune system protects self, my body, against invading organisms as everything else is called not self. Well, I go, that's a crude insight, but it's not anywhere near accurate for a simple reason. The immune system identifies things that get into the body that cause disruption of the system. And its job is to identify them, mark them, and eliminate them. And I go, but there are many organisms that live with us that are part of us. It's called the microbiome. Thousands of species of organisms, bacteria and parasites living with us. I say, the immune system doesn't attack them. The reason is this. They support our viability. They support who we are. So self versus not self, that's not the discriminating factor of the immune system. Factor of the immune system is anything that's disruptive to the system. Well, guess what? That not only includes organisms that came from the outside, but even our own cells, if they go rogue, like go into a cancer state, the immune system's job is to eliminate them. So basically, the function of the immune system is to keep harmony in the system. Any organism that comes in that disrupts harmony, function of the immune system, eliminate it.
The most important aspect about sleep is that it gives a chance for the body to recalibrate its system. So when consciousness is out, then the body starts to balance everything that's going on, with each system, the body's pH, the temperature regulation. Very interesting point that when people are comatose and they're in a hospital and they got all the wires on them and everything, they run at a beautiful, just beautiful, like idling speed. They're comatose, but their body has maintained a balance and harmony and everything is great in the body level. But as soon as they become awake, then the parameters in the body all start to change because it's our consciousness that is creating the functions of our body. And it's really important for people to understand this is that quantum physics is the most valid science on this planet in regard to its theoretical insights. And the number one principle in quantum physics is consciousness is creating our life experience. That's the most important understanding. Because it says we're not just a machine, but we're like a remote control machine. There's an energy field that is being picked up by each of us that is different. The field that's being received is different for each person.
Energy psychology is a new version of psychology that engages something called super learning. Super learning, what's that? I go, maybe you've seen somebody read a book by moving their finger down the page. Mm-hmm. Just as fast as they move that finger down the page, They read everything on both, on the page, on both pages. Boom, they could just read it. So the idea is this: well, if you can engage super learning and use that in downloading a new behavior, you ready? You can change a belief you had your whole life, 50, 60 years. You can change that in minutes, because super learning is the equivalent of pushing the record button on the subconscious. Super learning allows you to download a new program in minutes. And we need that. Why? Because the behavior that the culture and civilization using today is so out of harmony with nature that humans are causing their own extinction at this moment. It's called a mass extinction. NASA scientists have already told us that industrial civilization, the one we're in, is facing, and I want to emphasize this because it was in the title of their report, and I said, we are facing an irreversible collapse of civilization in the next couple of decades. Well, we're seeing it right now. Civilization is not working. The chaos that's all over the planet is a sign that it does not work this way, and if we don't change, then we're facing our own extinction. Negative thinking is equally powerful, but works in the opposite direction. Meaning, with positive thinking, you could heal yourself of any disease. With negative thinking, you can die and create any disease. You can create your own death just because you believe you're going to die. And all of a sudden I say, well, then it's the power of belief, positive or negative, that is shaping the world. And I go, well, this is why when we look at people's beliefs and they do an assessment of, they find out over 60% of the beliefs that we're manifesting every day are negative and disempowering, self-sabotaging thoughts that we've acquired, such as, I'm a victim of my genes. That's a belief. And somebody says, yeah, well, I'm going to die of cancer because it's running in my family, and they get cancer, and then they find out there's no gene that causes cancer. I'm saying this on Lynn's show. I will have to emphasize that there is not one gene that if you have this gene, you have cancer. Genes are correlated with cancer. Genes are not causing cancer. This is why half the women that have the breast cancer gene, BRCA2, half the women never get the cancer, but they all possess the gene. So where's the point? I said the gene didn't cause it. It was a lifestyle that was not in harmony that ultimately activated what is called a cancer gene. I said, so what do you mean? So if you change your thoughts, you can get rid of cancer? I go, yeah, well, that's what spontaneous remission is all about. And so I'm stepping on Lynn's field here because this is where this emanation of thought, and we don't see it, and we don't, in our history, that's just thoughts and feelings. I go, those are the controls that are manifesting your life, your thoughts and your feelings. Your feelings are the translation of the energy into sensation. So your feelings are like a compass. They're telling you whether you're going toward more life or to less life.
What are the main limiting beliefs that you just hear consistently that most people tend to have if they're not in a higher level program that they've caught and switched with?
Well, one of the main beliefs that they're caught up in is the lack of power they feel over their own health and their own reality. That I'm a victim. I'm a victim of my genes. I'm a victim of this world out here. I say if the belief system is translated into behavior. If I believe I'm a victim, then my behavior will be as a victim. No power. You guys tell me what to do, and I'll try and do what you just said. And I say, well, that's the biggest problem of all, because quantum physics, I mentioned, is the most valid science. And principle number one is you're the creator of this. And it's like, well, when are you going to own that? And the answer is, I could say it, but then you walk away and a few minutes later, you're back into your world again. Everything's gone. Listen, it took me a while. I learned and understood that, oh my God, this is how it works. And I was so excited. I wanted to get people, I wanted to tell anybody to listen to the science. This is how it works. So I beginning got some people together and I started to go off. Let me tell you how to create the most beautiful life experience. And then they'd look at me and they go, Lipton, for a guy who says this, your life doesn't look that good.
Interesting.
It was my wake-up call that said, how the hell can I talk about how wonderful this is and I'm not practicing it. And I immediately said to myself, no, don't go out there and talk to anybody about this. Why? Until you do it.
So what were the things that were holding you back before you discovered this? And then what was the new program that you started to implement for yourself on a consistent basis to have 100% upgraded program?
Yeah. Well, one of the things professionally, okay, I was doing a great job. I had a great professorship in a medical school, all that kind of stuff. Personally, my life sucked.
Really?
I couldn't get a relationship off the ground. I go, why not? I go, well, now that I know about it, I was programmed about relationships by observing my father and my mother. Well, they had dysfunctional relationships. So what do you think I downloaded? Dysfunction.
Yeah.
So my conscious mind goes forward and says, yeah, I want to have a great relationship. I get into it. My subconscious mind steps up and says, so this is how we do a relationship. Ooh, uh-oh, game over. Right. Why? Because I didn't see the negative behaviors that I was putting out. My potential partner saw them and gave them cause for alarm. I don't think I want to be with this guy, that was me. And then I realized that, and that's when I really had to go in first thing and start to change. Who am I? And I'll tell you the biggest problem now after years of working, people do not love themselves. And I say, what does that mean? I say, if you have a program where you don't love yourself, then rationally, logically, can anybody else love you? And the answer is no.
Because you don't think you're lovable.
That's right. And somebody says you are, that, oh, I love you. And then you go, well, you probably don't have any quality control. I know I'm not lovable. What's wrong with you? And then at some point you push them away and then they're not there. And then you go, I'm not lovable. Nobody's here. I pushed them away, and I changed that. I was nearly 45 years old, 40 some years old. And I had zero quality relationships for all that life.
Right.
I changed the program. And within a couple of years, I'm now with my partner, Margaret. And the fact is, she was involved with a workshop training program for people. So she understood processing and stuff. And when I came and we added the science and the processing, we've been living a honeymoon for 26 years.
Really?
26 years waking up every day going, wow, still here. Another day for fun. Another day for being in love. It was great. And it still is. But if I didn't change the program, that would never have been part of my life at all. I would have been my whole life struggling. An interesting thing about the Matrix is that we're given a choice to take either a red pill or a blue pill. Taking the red pill wakes us up and the blue pill puts us back to sleep. Those that have taken the red pill believe they really have awakened. But the fact is this, biologically speaking, how do you know whether you're really awake or whether you're still asleep? The whole point about this is when you're asleep and you're in a dream, you don't know whether you're awake or in a dream. They all seem exactly the same. Some people like to consider The Matrix as nothing more than a science fiction film. But in truth, it's actually a documentary. We've all been programmed. And 95% of our life is coming from the program. We're not living the life that we desire because we have been programmed. But what is the real nature of taking the pills in the first place? As we've described before, we came here to make a choice. Do we take the red pill or do we take the blue pill? As the Oracle says,
how can I make a choice?
You didn't come here to make the choice. You've already made it. You're here to try to understand why you made it.
Whether you take the red pill or you take the blue pill, that's no choice at all, because that choice is taking the pill, either one. But it's a taking situation. And the problem with this is civilization has been taking for thousands of years, taking and taking. From where? From Mother Earth, nature, taking her resources and using them to the extent that there are no more resources from Mother Earth. We're facing a problem now as being takers. We as being takers have created what is called the sixth mass extinction of life on this planet. We have taken so much from nature that nature is collapsing. The real choice is, what is the opposite of taking? And that is giving. And this is what nature is calling upon us to do right now. Stop taking from nature and let's give back to nature, because this is the only way we can create balance and harmony in our world. Nature is the source, and it is time for us right now
to return to that source. Through this chaos, nature is teaching us how to learn to live in harmony with each other, as well as learning to live in harmony with nature itself. This is the point of cooperation, to come here and create and maintain that balance of harmony and peace. Humankind has been programmed with the delusion that we are separate from each other and we are separate from Mother Nature herself. The real choice we're being asked to make is whether we want to live in polarity or whether we want to live in harmony. The difference being, in polarity, we have opposite sides in conflict. In contrast, in harmony, the opposite sides work together and complement one another. And this is completely different than the polarity. If you took the red pill, it doesn't mean that those that took the blue pill are something different and less than what you are. That's just a different polarity that can come together in the name of harmony and actually integrate with one another. I really want you to understand the nature of what is the significance between receiving and giving. In our biology, our nervous system is all based on receiving. All of our receptors receiving sound, smell, taste, touch, pain, pressure, all of this is receiving. But the question is, what are we giving back? We are receptors, but we also must learn to be givers. And that is where harmony and balance comes from. The balance between not just taking, but returning back to nature, what nature has given us. I need to empower the people because they have been invisibly disempowered without the knowledge that their life is coming from programs that they didn't even put in there.
Right. So true.
And these programs rarely support what you want, so you play the programs and all you find is you're not getting what you want. Those programs never gave it to you. You know, a famous book, Kiyosaki wrote a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is truth. Here it is, simple truth. If you grew up in a rich family, you were programmed how to be rich and how to have money. If you grew up in a poor family, you were programmed to recognize you don't have any money and you don't have any power. And I say then a rich person will stay rich. Why? Because 95% of their life is coming from the programs they downloaded from the rich parents who made all the money. The poor person is going to stay poor because 95% of their program comes from the poverty mentality that their family experienced when they were young. And all of a sudden it says, well, then you got programmed. You want to be a rich kid or a poor kid? I said, well, what the hell was your program?
Right.
And the big one that we're talking about, David, is the program of fear. Because we've all been programmed with some vision that other people have told us about the afterlife. The fear, the hell, the damnation. Oh, I don't want to die. I go, hey, from what are called near-death experiences where people have died for a period of time, almost every one of them said the exact same thing. It was better out there than it was back here again. And, you know, because a lot of them, when having this experience, are given a choice. Do you want to stay here in the afterlife or do you want to go back? And most of them would prefer to have stayed there, but have obligations and came back.
Right.
But the point was, yeah, you're not this physical body, you're the broadcast, you're the energy. But when you're playing through this body, then you're the experiences of your life at this point. When you're out of body, you are the energy. And the energy is forever. People don't realize the power of programming. Here, I'll give you one right now. Cancer is one of the leading causes of death in the world right now. And I go, but what? And I go, there's no gene that causes cancer. What? Oh, they're oncogenes. We call these cancer genes, like the breast cancer gene. I go, those are genes associated with the cancer. They don't cause the cancer. For, you know, example, so many women live in fear of the breast cancer gene because so many have it. But they live, what's the fear? I'm going to get the cancer. I have the gene. And I said that fear is a vision which is manifesting into their reality. But then I go, you know, 50% of the women that carry the gene never get the cancer. I said, what's the point? And the point is this. Possession of the gene didn't cause cancer. It was a lifestyle that was undermining your biology that activated expression of these genes. The gene didn't activate itself. So all of a sudden it says, oh my goodness, then the idea of cancer didn't come from the genes. I go, no, it came from the programming. Programming of disharmony, dysfunction, not living in life, the fears that are programmed because our consciousness is creating this world. Oh, that's quantum physics. Oh, yeah, that's epigenetics. Oh, yeah, that's absolutely right. That's placebo. I go, what do you mean? I'm sick, and the doctor says, this is the greatest, newest research pill ever. It's going to cure you. You take the pill, you get better, and you go, oh, yeah, that was great. And then you find out the pill was a sugar pill. There's a very important point. Then what the hell heals you?
Right.
The conscious belief that you would be healed manifested healing. And everybody go, oh yeah, placebo. My thoughts manifested my reality. I go, that's exactly what it's all about. And yet, while we are in a discussion of placebo, what people don't discuss, which is much more important to understand, is while positive thinking can heal us, negative thinking is equally powerful in controlling the character of our lives. So that negative thinking can cause any disease, even death. If you just believe you're going to die, you can die just from the belief of it.
Wow. Looking at the world and seeing what's going on right now, all the chaos, the upheaval that's going on is so distressing at one level. And it's interesting for me because as a scientist, I can stand up and talk about the fact that today's chaos is a necessary requirement for the evolution that we would love to see. And yet I, like you, have to live in this crazy world. It's mind-blowing, it's crazy. And it becomes really important because all of this stuff that we're hearing is motivating fear. And fear, by its definition, is disempowering. Because when you're in fear, you're expressing, I have no power to take care of myself. And we give up power. And we give it up to other people to create the world for us. And obviously, by looking at this computer and watching what's going on around the world, those so-called leaders are not really helping us get to the destination of a heaven on earth reality. And it's time to recognize, yes, fear takes away our power. I've talked about that in many, many lectures, talked about the fact that stress hormones actually shut down our consciousness and puts us into a reactive mode. Well, this is not a time for reaction. This is a time for creation. And this is what the emphasis of quantum physics has been telling us, that it's our consciousness that is making creation. And yet, if we're living in fear and consciousness is coming from fear, then what world are we creating? Well, that's the chaos we observe every day on the news. So in this situation, what we really have to do is just listen to the words of Franklin D. Roosevelt when he said, the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Also relevant today are the profound words by Frank Herbert in Dune, where he says, fear is the mind killer. And this is what we have to recognize. Well, I've been talking about the fact that consciousness has created our world, and I say it's based on science. Well, let me give you a very important fact. It was in 1927, in the founding of the science of quantum physics, that we get the most important insight from one of the founding fathers of quantum physics, Max Planck. And what does Max say? All matter originates and exists only by virtue of a force. We must assume behind that force the existence of a conscious and intelligent mind. He concludes, this mind is the matrix of all matter. Well, that was, 70 some more years ago, 100 years ago? I say, has that changed? I go, no. Look at this, for example. This is an article out of the most prestigious scientific journal on this planet, Nature. And I say, well, what's this article? I said, it's called The Mental Universe. It's by a quantum physicist at Johns Hopkins University. I'm not going to go and describe everything he says in the article because Richard Conn Henry, the author, summed it up in the last sentence. Let me emphasize for you that last sentence in this article on quantum physics. The universe is immaterial. It's mental and spiritual. Live and enjoy. The body provides us with sensations. Pain, love, joy, happiness, anger, whatever. It comes from this mechanism. It's a mechanism. The eyes take in light, but they don't see light back here in the brain. They see energy vibrations. Sound comes in my ears. I don't hear the sound, I hear the vibrations. Taste, that's a vibration. It's a chemical vibration. And all of a sudden, oh my God, this is a transducer. It takes life experiences in a body that gives us vision and smell and taste and touch and pain and love and joy. And I say, and this is sent back to our source. So we came here to have life experiences. And I go, At that moment of awakening, I said, oh, crap. Here's a major difference between men and women. Men are not allowed to have these sensory experiences. And I'll give you a reason, but women are. So women are sensitive. And that's a way of life for them. They're sensitive. And then they go, but men are so insensitive. I go, that was a program. We were programmed to be insensitive for a very simple reason. You cannot be a soldier if you're sensitive. You can't kill somebody if you're sensitive. So men have been knowingly programmed to lose sensitivity so they can be used to do those jobs like killing somebody else. And I go, oh my God. Then I missed the reason for being on this planet. I missed the feeling of what is love all about. What are these senses of joy and happiness? I'm not allowed to experience them as a guy because that interferes with a soldier job. I go, I'm wasting my life. And that was a wake-up call. I said, well, damn it, go out and taste it and touch it and feel it and smell it and do whatever you want. And if it's really good, do it again. And if it didn't work out so good, then don't do that one again. You came here to have these experiences. Why would you want to waste your life having all the negative fear, anxiety, all those problems? It was a choice. It was consciousness. But we didn't know that because we were programmed to be victim. And a victim has no power. And as long as you believe you're a victim, then you manifest victim. And this is why I'm so honored to be with you, Jeff, because you're experiencing this. You know this stuff. You're trying to get this message out to the other people. Why? To wake us all up. Because we came here to manifest heaven on earth, like falling in love. And I go, then what about all this war and pestilence and plague and all these things? I go, oh, that's a manifestation. And we're manifesting it. You can live in this world without even being involved with all those things. You just have to change who you are and what you want, conscious mind, versus programs, subconscious mind. And when you understand this, you become empowered. And I say, empowered to do what? I say, create heaven on earth. And then people think, oh, you die and go to heaven. I go, boy, is that a big mistake? Because you're going to get to the pearly gates. St. Peter's going to be there. And he says, well, how was your experience in heaven? He said, what do you mean? I said, you were on earth, right? That's heaven. Why? That's where you came to create. What did you create? I go, oh, I don't want to wait to the end, man. My mother remarried when she was relatively older, and she married this guy who was, I said, curmudgeon-y guy. He was not really a happy guy or anything. He lived to be like 95, 96 or something. He had cancer. My mother took care of him at home. The last week of his life, he essentially wasn't there. He was just comatose, more or less, in the bed. And then 2 days before he died, all of a sudden his eyes opened up. He was there. And he looked at my mother and he said, I didn't have any fun. And all of a sudden I just said, holy crap, he's going to die in 2 days. And he woke up today. He didn't have any fun. I said, that's not me, babe. Because when I finish, it's going to be, that was great. Let's do it again. There are 3 ways to change belief, okay? Self-hypnosis, earphones on at night. Repetition, create a new habit. And third one, energy psychology, which allows you to rewrite an existing program in minutes. And we need to do this. Why? Because if you haven't noticed and you haven't looked out the window, the world's falling apart. I go, and why is it falling apart? And the answer is because we're facing what is called the 6th mass extinction of life. The web of life is collapsing. I go, then why is the web of life collapsing? The answer is human behavior. I go, oh, you don't want the web to collapse? We have to change the behavior. And this is what the world is experiencing at this time. The chaos all over the world is bringing to light the fact that these behaviors we're fighting and violently with are behaviors that have taken us out of heaven and put our consciousness into a world that we're experiencing, which is falling apart. You want to make a world of heaven? Then you change the program and then you could have heaven. It's your belief system that creates this. You fell in love because you stopped playing your program and you created heaven. I say, well, guess what? Heaven was always there, except the damn program got in the way. So you want heaven on earth?
don't play the program, stay mindful, or B, rewrite the existing program and put heaven on earth programs in there, and then 95% of the day you'll be playing that. An adult has all different ranges of vibrations of brain function, but when a child is born, for the first 2 years, it has a very low vibration called delta. And a child is in delta. Well, adults, when they're in delta, that's called sleeping. Well, yeah, for the first year and a half or two of a child's life, they spend most of their time in delta, so that's the predominant vibration of a child's brain. But around 2 years of age, the vibration of a child's brain increases at a higher level of vibration, and this level is called theta. Well, theta, that's characterized by imagination. And that's true. A child between the ages of 2 and 7 is mixing the real world and the imaginary world at the same time. So, for example, the child's on a broom pretending it's a horse. Well, to that child, that broom is a horse. So if the mother says, "Give me the broom," the child looks at her like, "What are you talking about?" Because the child really experiences that as a broom. Oh, on the old famous tea party where they pour nothing into the cup and they drink nothing and they go, "That was the best tea I ever had." Well, mixing imagination in the real world is what happens between ages 2 and 7 when a child is experiencing theta. But by the time the child reaches 7, the vibration goes a little bit higher, and we call that vibration alpha. And alpha is calm consciousness. Well, that's the child's life in the beginning of consciousness. It's very peaceful and loving. But then around age 12, the vibration goes up even higher. Now it's called beta vibration. Well, beta vibration is the brain activity when a child is in school or when an adult is working. And the beautiful part about this is every year of the child's life, the vibrations get greater and greater. And then when we're adults, we have the whole range. Yes, at night when we're sleeping, it's delta. And just in the morning before we wake up, called twilight reverie, the brain kicks into a higher vibration, theta. And then as the alarm clock goes off and we're ready to wake up, the brain is now in alpha, calm consciousness for the morning. And then, on the way to work, the vibration even gets higher. Now it's called beta. And at work all day long, that's a very high functioning consciousness, beta. You know, the interesting part, though, is when you come back home, it goes back in reverse. So you come home from work and you've been working all day, you're in beta, and then when you get home, you start to calm down and relax, and the vibration slows down to alpha, calm consciousness. And then guess what? The moment you fall asleep and your eyes close, the brain is now in a lower vibration, theta, and then as you go a little deeper, guess what? Delta, and you're in sleep. And every day this cycle works. Delta, theta, alpha, beta, coming home, beta, alpha, theta, delta, cycling and cycling. Well, this is really a very interesting aspect of brain function for this reason. Theta, the brain activity between 2 and 7 years old for a child, is not just imagination. Theta is hypnosis. And this is how a child can download so much information as a little kid under 7 years of age. When we understand the nature of the progression of our brain vibration, it then becomes important for parents to know this for a very important reason. When does a child start actually downloading behavior? Well, very interesting fact. Even before the child is born. In the last trimester of pregnancy, the brain is already beginning to hit on theta. And when it's doing that, the child is experiencing what the mother is experiencing. So a happy mother is sending happy information to the baby as programs. But a mother who is afraid, frightened, not sure of the world she's living in, sends kind of scary messages to that fetus as it's developing. And the child is actually beginning to download these messages. The mother is Head Start program. She's the one that sees the world, and her interpretation of the world is translated into programs into the baby even before it's born. And why should they be able to download so much information? Well, think about it this way. how many rules must a child learn to be a functional member of a family? And then how many more rules must that child learn to be a functional member of the community? Thousands of rules, if you think about it. For example, how a father talks to his own child is different than how the father talks to the neighbor's child, which is different than how the father talks to the mother, which is different than how the father talks to the neighbor's wife, and that's even different than how the father talks to the policeman. You gotta learn a lot of rules to grow up and be a functional member of a family and community. And the idea of, can you teach this to a child, a youngster? They can't read. They're going to go to school? No, they're kids. So the most important insight is that a child between the age of 2 and 7 is observing the community. So it's important for us to all recognize that around children, we really must be behaving at our best and highest level, because we are now programming the future of that child. The problem is this: when we grow up, 95% of our life is coming from the programs that we downloaded starting even before we were born through age 7. And these kids, when they grow up, are going to be the world that we're moving into. These kids are our future. So it really is incumbent upon us to recognize this. We should be helping them with the best behavior. We must be on our best behavior because they are copying our behavior between ages 2 and 7 especially. And therefore, if we want the future to be better, then we have to be better people as parents, as community, as family. We have to be the models that we want these kids to be, because they're watching us, they're recording us, and they'll become us.
Humans have morality. We're supposed to anyway. You know, don't kill things. Okay. We're supposed to have morality. Yeah. But corporations have no morality. They just have a mission. How much money can I make? That is the mission by law of what a corporation is. So I say, then that's why they can do anything. Let's destroy the environment if we can make enough money. And all of a sudden you start to see the leadership of this world is not really caring about what the individuals want. They want to appease the money-making part. And then the laws come down, and if it conflicts with a corporate law, then screw the people. Let's give the corporation their due. And that's once we gave up, and we said humans are like corporations are like humans and have the power of a human. I go, no, they don't. They have no morality. They're nothing like a human at all. And we gave them all the power. And this is a wake-up call for all of us. It said, who's caring for you? You know, I love it. They always talk about the friendly banker. When's the banker friendly? The banker is friendly when you have money. Yeah. If you don't have money, banker's not so friendly anymore. Doesn't care about you at all. Absolutely. You know, and I go, same thing, pharmaceutical company. You got money? We're working with you. Yeah. I don't care about you if you have no money. And we lost. And so the evolution we're facing right now says, we have been driven to this by minds that have no care for an environment. Take what you want, do what you want, throw crap into the water, you know, all this kind of stuff. Dig out the natural resources. It's like, what's our future if you do this? The answer is, it's already happening. Extinction. We're not in harmony with each other, obviously, and we're not in harmony with nature. And I say, well, you got two choices here. Follow the money or follow the harmony. And right now, unfortunately, this is a tug of war, and corporates are winning because fear. Because once you're afraid, you give up power. Fear is a definition. I'm afraid. And I go, well, then who's going to help you? Who's got the biggest stick? Yeah. Who's the one with the biggest clout? Let's give them the power. And I'll wait here for them to fix it. And I go, they're clubbing you over the head at this point, and we have to wake up. I'm sorry I went on a tirade a little bit, Brian.
It's really interesting to understand the difference in the dichotomy between living in love and living in fear. And it's best illustrated if I put cells in a petri dish and I put nutrients in front of the cells will move to the nutrients. But if I put toxins in front of the cells move away from the toxins. The significance is when you're in a growth situation, which is really what love represents,
you're open, because growth is open to the world and you assimilate things, and that's where growth comes from. Protection is just the complete opposite. Protection means you're threatened, your life is threatened, and you wall yourself off in protection. So growth is open and protection is closed. Well, the relevance is then you can't be in growth and in protection at the same time. So in our normal history of biology, protection is a necessary part of our survival. You being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, you seriously have to do something about this. So what nature has done is created a protection mechanism. In scientific terms, it's referred to as the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, very complicated, abbreviated as HPA. And what this really represents is the hypothalamus, the part of the brain that does an interpretation. It looks at the world and says, am I in a safe place or am I in a scary place? If the hypothalamus sees that we're in threat of any kind, it sends a signal to the pituitary gland, the master gland, whose signals coordinate the activity of 50 trillion cells. Well, in the case of a threat, the pituitary gland releases hormones that activate the adrenal glands. The adrenal system is referred to as fight or flight. So it's basically a protection mechanism. So I say, okay, great. The HPA axis, hypothalamus sees the threat, pituitary coordinates 50 trillion cells, and the adrenal gland prepares for a protection response. Well, if you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, you're going to have to use your arms and legs to run away or fight what you need to do. So the system, when under threat, releases stress hormones from the adrenal gland. The adrenal gland allocates all the energy of the system to run away from the saber-toothed tiger. Well, that means the first thing the adrenal gland activity does is cause the blood vessels in the gut to constrict. This forces the blood, which has the energy, to the arms and legs. But then you have to realize this, the moment you shut down the blood vessels of the gut, this is where growth and maintenance and the necessary control and stability of the body is coming from, the organs of the viscera. So when you're in a moment of threat, you shut down the energy going to this gut because you're allocating the energy to run away. That's one of the first things that happens is we shut down growth and maintenance of the body. And people say, well, growth, I'm an adult, I don't need to grow. And I go, we're made out of 50 trillion cells, but every day we lose billions, hundreds of billions of cells, numbers that are just too big to conceive of, actually. Normal attrition, aging, damage. And so basically it says every day you're losing hundreds of billions of cells. That means by definition, every day you have to replace hundreds of billions of cells. So while you don't see yourself growing, every day you are growing to match what you're losing. So if you shut down the growth of the system, it won't take very long for the system to become in a state of disrepair. Because if you're not maintaining the replacement of those cells, this will lead to sickness and disease. And number two, remember, when the threat is present, the adrenal hormones are released in stress. They shut down the immune system. And this is an effort to conserve energy to run away from the tiger. What's the result of being in a state of protection? The answer is you shut down the growth and maintenance of the body, and you shut down the immune system. Both of these, if sustained for a period of time, will inevitably lead to disease and death. And just to refer back again to the nature of why evolution gave us this protection response, to run away from the saber-toothed tiger. But once you run away from it, once you've made it away from that tiger, then the system goes back into growth again. So by nature's understanding, you're only supposed to use the stress system for very short intervals of time because it interferes with the normal functions. And then you look at today's world and we realize 24/7, 365 stress hormones are being released into the system. We read the newspapers, we watch the news, we're concerned about the world and its unfolding. So what was supposed to be only used for a very short time has now become chronic. And the chronic release of stress hormones has resulted in an elevation of the amount of disease and sickness that our planet is experiencing right now. So the significance is we must recover. And then to recover, it says, we must get out of the fear that we live in because fear kills.
You're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. I say, you need energy to survive. You have to run. I said, where's the energy going to go? I said, well, energy's in the blood. That's what carries the energy. I say, when the stress hormones come in because the tiger is chasing you, it does several things.
It shuts off the blood flow to the gut, the viscera, all the organs, pancreas, stomach, intestines. I go, it shuts off the blood supply. I say, why? I don't need to fix and maintain the body. If the tiger is going to catch me, then that's a waste of my energy. I want all the energy go to my arms and legs to escape. So I say, stress hormones shut off the mechanism of the viscera, the growth and maintenance of the body while you're being chased. I say, what else? And here comes the one that you were bringing up. When we're really sick, you don't have a lot of energy to even get out of bed because the immune system uses a lot of energy to keep you healthy. I go, so I'm being chased by a tiger and I have a bacterial infection. So I'm putting energy into run away. I'm putting energy into the infection. I go, why do you worry about the infection? Because if the tiger catches you, the infection is not a problem anymore. You're done, okay? So this is the point you brought up, and this is the most important point for the audience to understand. Stress hormones shut off the immune system so that the energy can be used to run away from the tiger before being used to fight the bacteria. And this is the most important understanding because stress is the cause of over 90% of illness on this planet. Everyone thinks genes are causing the illness. I go, less than 1% of illness is connected to genes. 90% of illness is stress because when you put the stress hormones in, what do? They shut off the maintenance of the body. They shut off the immune system, and they even shut off the intelligence. I go, what do you mean they shut off the intelligence? I say, if the conscious brain, the one up in the front that's connected to you, your person, is a slow processor, like a slow computer. The subconscious is like a super fast computer. If you're being chased by a tiger, it's not the time to think of, I go, no, run! And so the stress hormones shut down the blood vessels in the forebrain, where the consciousness is, pushes the blood with the energy to the hindbrain, where reflexes and reaction, no thinking, because thinking is slow. So I say, so then stress hormones do three things. Number one, they shut off the growth and maintenance of the body. Number two, they shut down the immune system, which protects you from internal problem. And number three, they make you less intelligent. And I go, look at the world today. The stress levels are overriding. As I said, 90% of illness is straight stress, not genetics. It's lifestyle. It's the fear. It's not living in harmony. They don't have enough good music to bring harmony into their world. They're on edge. And I go, well, that automatically compromises your health.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing rules from Eckhart Tolle, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Some people have that with their parents. So they say, my dad don't understand me at all. It's terrible, terrible. I'm trying to explain. They cannot understand you. It's beyond their comprehension if you have awakened spiritually.